Organization, manufacturing and supply chain ecosystems. And we are very proud and privileged to have with us as the chair and the moderator for today's session, Air Commodore Sandeep Singh Sir, VM, Air Commodore Operations, Remote, Air Headquarters. Thank you so much, sir, for being a part, and we request you to join us on the stage. Requesting Mr. Natarajan Ramachandran, GM SIDB, to talk on the investments part, and thank you for your support as well. Inviting Group Captain Naran sir to also be a part of the panel. Mr. Vishal Markande sir, CEO Singularity. Thank you for coming for the program, sir, and requesting you to join us, please. Ms. Shreya Rastogi, founder and CEO SR Aerospace. Thank you for coming. And please join us. Mr. Ishan Hayden, founder of Easy, and Mr. Dev Malaya Biswas, co-founder of Hyprix Aviation. So we have a mix of experience and youngsters for you, sir. All yours. Thank you so much. A big round of applause for this panel, please. Thank you.
To the moderator for this important session on strengthening indigenous manufacturing and supply chain ecosystem. We are meeting at a very defining moment. Post Sindoor has been a year of many reiterations and things that have taken place. And we have witnessed, and now we are focusing on those wars which are taking place right now and understanding how supply chains can become strategic vulnerabilities. The shortages of semiconductors, export controls, geopolitical tensions, some trump cards of people like Trump, and not all nations can build critical technologies and guarantee their strategic autonomies. But for India, with two belligerent neighbors, one in the north and one in the west, and many others coming to fore, it's not an economic challenge, but a reality, and that it's a national imperative. Being one of the fastest growing drone and aerospace ecosystems, we have a very vibrant startup ecosystem, established industries, world-class academic institutions, and very strong policy initiatives like Make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, production link incentive schemes, IDEX, and the growing innovation ecosystem. Yet, a significant portion still depends upon import. Be it propulsion, be it electronics, sensors, navigation modules, batteries, semiconductor devices, and specialized materials. The real measure of self-reliance is therefore not what we assemble, but what we design, develop, and sustain in India. So the theme of this discussion goes beyond manufacturing and about creating a complete ecosystem. I couldn't have asked for a better panel, and this panel will tell us how do we move from assembling imported subsystems to owning core technologies, how do we reduce dependencies on critical components without compromising quality or competitiveness, how do we build resilient supply chains capable of supporting both civilian and defense, and also to scale up at the right time in crisis and war. And perhaps more importantly, how do government, defense, industry, academia, startup, and the users work together as partners? Where are they lacking? Where do they need to connect? What do they need to do? So that connections may be put over here, and therefore share the development of the pie. The answers will not come from one organization or one ministry. There will be collaborations, a collaborative effort. And I will leave it to the panel now. The panel now is a very interesting panel which I have. There is Group Captain Narang, who's a senior fellow researcher in IDSA and done a lot of research in writing on the unmanned systems. So I would like to start with him, sir, if you may. Just give us an insight on how should India defense industry policy evolve from import substitutions to technology leadership and such like questions. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have a habit of cheating, so I carry my notes always. So you'll have to manage with my habit. Uh, so if you see, what we did was we played. Did you see the drone here, which flew? Did you people see the drone?
Also Josh. Yes.
That drone was imported drone. So this was to emphasize that we need to focus seriously, and we are facing challenges in really building indigenous drones. Is my presentation connected? Oh wow. Okay. This video is from YouTube, but this is to highlight how serious a component or a drone which was flying here can be. And this video is not important. What is important is the slide next to it. I want you to pay attention. Being a YouTube video, I may stop in between, but I want you to understand that. What does he do? The sound, I think, there's some issue, but what happened? What happened? Can somebody tell me what happened? Say again? The site was tracked. The person who was operating was tracked. Now look at this is a 2022 tweet of Ukrainian Vice Prime Minister. It is a real life situation when he said hundreds of people died, and this letter was written to DGI chief, CEO. It's not a joke. It's a reality. Why Bharat drone network is there? And my biggest concern is earlier we were urging the industry to make it. Today we and armed forces are also involved in some sort of drone development or production, you say. The challenge or responsibility of the defense forces becomes even higher to ensure that critical component do not become a critical vulnerability in future. This is the message we need to remember. And this letter, I want you to see it little more closely. What does Ukrainian Prime Minister ask CEO of DGI? He said, provide information of number of DGI products in Ukraine, their IDs, where and when they were purchased and activated. It's funny, he's asking a foreign company to give him details of the products in his own country. You know, that is the seriousness of the issue. If those things become part of our inventories and we are not able to trace and they become our vulnerability and they lead to dying of people, then something serious needs to be done. You know what happened in Pager's attack in Hezbollah? These are real-time challenges. So I urge all of you to understand the significance and understand tomorrow what it could become. Of course, we need to be interoperable. The drones we are procuring all around. There are multiple drones within the army. Various entities are procuring now. We have innovation entities making for some more drones. Are they interoperable? Any person operating in a peacetime becomes a challenge, and in wartime it becomes an even more challenge. And in fact, you see what Chief of Air Staff said. We don't want fratricide. We don't want our people killing our own people or the platforms. It's a serious issue. Now I come to the integration. Why do we need to integrate drones? There are multiple entities operating. And imagine now you have, imagine Sindoor kind of situation. By then we will have thousands of drone operating and they will have thousands of drone coming to us. Whom will we shoot? It can become a challenge and we need to be aware. If the timings are wrong, we will be in a situation. Now there are so many initiatives taken and yet we have the components being imported and we are talking it for last so many years. Why is it that we have the drone centers of excellence? We are buying very, very expensive systems. We are developing, we are setting collaborations, MOU every now and then, and yet our critical components remain. So I think this is a subject for food for thought. This is guideline for indigenous Kisan drone. I think this is a template which armed forces need to look at it. How they identify indigenization content in the defense forces drones, but with one caveat: this indigenization validation should not only be on validation of bills of material, but scientific validation of each components or critical technologies. This is how we can address those technologies. So all those innovators who keep coming here on this stage, if their components is certified, they will have some sort of legitimacy. If their components are part of procurement, not only products, they will have greater chances of staying in India and surviving. We had a similar chat on that. There are a lot of capabilities which are in bits and pieces. I give a simple example is we had a 55 horsepower engine which was made by CVRD. It is still lying there, but it's not part of drones which are being developed in India. And we have Vishal. Vishal knows this about singularity. He knows what I am talking of. And yet, some data links were made, and data link remains our vulnerability. Whether they were miniaturized or not, that could have been part 2. Whether some systems which were made part of it can be part 3. This is somewhere short of TB2. Okay, it is made from a proven airframe, proven engine, automatic takeoff landing, data link, indigenous data link, and it's not part of our inventory. So if we want Bharat stack, then we will have to find to make these systems successful, operationally useful, operationally successful. Indigenous Developers Data Bank is one of the important part. We keep doing these initiatives on a bits and pieces, but I think national or tri-services level effort or MOD level effort is required. Critical development roadmap with timeline and ownership. I think 50 to 60% of the products will already be available in India. But if we map them and then make roadmap for remaining and then ensure those equipments are procured, I have no doubt about 80 to 90% of these systems we can do it in a period of 2 years. Then if something is left out, then use these initiatives to make them happen. If public sector is able to do it, fine. If the private sector is able to do it, fine. Let's do it together. I think people spoke about DARPA model, so I never forget DARPA being repeated, often quoted in India. I think people only talk about DARPA and they forget Air Force Research Laboratory, Office of Naval Research, Army Innovation Command, Army Futures Command, Army Research Laboratory of US. And what would you be surprised that China has equivalent structures in the armed forces. Equipment Development Department of CMC or Science and Technology Commission of Chairman Military Commission. So we need to study the holistic ecosystem, why a country excels. Then give a recommendation, we will do well. Procurements, as I have said, we need to find mechanism of including indigenous QRs. Morning, people were talking about QCBCS. Colonel Manik keeps talking about QCBCS system. There are a lot of people, but how and when are we going to implement? Why we are not able to implement is an issue which we need to look at it. Then only we can do it. If Rustam 1, Tapas, Archer NG has not met our QRs, when are we going to formulate a spiral development policy to launch the next variant? Block development, replace. My suggestion is the user is an important element. He has to become part of design and development teams. And I don't expect increase in manpower or thing. It is just this vertical specialization. The people who are part of for project monitoring team, they need to have a specialization, and they can be part of design team. Lot of money, effort can be saved. I think one of the vertical we need is indigenous design and development and manufacture products in GEM. So people sitting here will have a lot of smile. They know that their product is being recognized. And then this quote of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, Make in India is quite ambitious as we are facing now. We should not become a low cost, low value, vulnerable assembly line of the world. If we go on that path, growth will come at great price and pain to people. We need to do original research to design, develop and manufacture in India, and I am confident these people are very competent, I can assure you. Thank you very much.
A big round of applause for pointed points. Now, quickly going over to Shreya Rastogi. She's from AR Aerospace Solutions and SR. Sorry, my bad. And the questions which I would want her to answer are: what are the biggest manufacturing challenges in scaling from prototype to serial production? Which aerospace components continue to remain import dependent, and how large company mentors MSMEs to create resilient supply chains?
Hi, thank you for the question. Just to give you a little bit background about what we do, we focus on propulsion stacks. So our primary focus is identifying areas that are bottleneck in the current ecosystem and then working towards them and scaling them into bigger entities. That is something we understood on the go as we were developing our products. But one of the things I feel like continues to be a challenge is that even though the products are once tested or even recognized by a testing agency, they are continuously tested over and over again for the same performance. I feel like that's a redundancy in validation, given there's so much resource, cost, time, and effort that goes by the same entity doing the same test over again. I think DIU, I know DARPA has a great press kit. People have been referring to it all along. But DIU framework, there are blue UAS frameworks in US, which are kind of recognized as like industrial partners who do good work and have been categorically understood by the academia and DoD, which is the Department of Defense, to be like, brought into the ecosystem. What that does is it allows the users who need certified components or even recognized. You don't particularly need certification, you just need a recognition that their standards have been appropriate, their supply chains have been checked for, so that everybody in the agency is not redoing the work over and over again with the same supplier. And I think that continues to be a challenge not only for us as manufacturers, but for us to be onboarded with certified partners. For them, it's a deterrent because they have already been certified. Now to bring us on as an indigenous partner, they have to go through the entire cycle all over again. That is not going to be exciting for anybody. And secondly, even as a business owner, I understand if there's a cost associated to it to make it indigenized, who gets to absorb it? Because ultimately when our clients are competing in L1 or even make projects, it's about cost at the end of the day, right? It boils down there, and they really struggle with keeping us aboard if we are even a little bit. But ultimately we are also startups or MSMEs, and we have a certain bottom line we can't cross. And at that point, it just becomes harsh to watch them import the same components they were comfortable using ours. So that has been one challenge. The other one, I feel, for as we transition for tactical systems, right? There is already, and echoing what's been said before, traceability is part of the aerospace ecosystem. I've been to a lot of air shows at this point. One of the things I have seen is that India has been late to the game, but the rest of the world has had over 30 years to explore drones as a solution or even as a medium to do different things, but we haven't seen anything mobilized. And that's primarily because a lot of it grew from hobby space. A lot of people just wanted to do proof of concepts and not really take it on how it would look like from a commercial perspective, where your cost per unit flight is involved. And that would be much like, if I were to bring context for the rest of the audience, and in a non-technical sense, it's like how much your car gives per kilometer, right? That's how you're able to define what different applications can be built out of that ecosystem. Today we have no visibility about how that failure time between operations exists or per unit cost for each flight. And because there is no visibility there, a lot of peripheries that go around this ecosystem still lack in that sense, because they still have no visibility about how many flights they're going to be able to get out of the operation, how many maintenance requirements will be there along the way. So it's hard for the ecosystem to really grow from a hobby space. Now, as a aerospace compliant company, I think there are two segments to it. There's production and then there's traceability, which answers a lot of what Group Captain Naran brought up. Traceability allows you to exactly know who it's been sold to and at what quantity, which batch, and you can identify a lot of these things. Of course, mishandling goes, but to some extent it resolves the whole prospect of directly selling to somebody who you know is not eligible. So traceability becomes part of the concept. Production in itself allows you to maintain a transparent network where you know who are the suppliers and they can be cross-checked at any point in time. And even if the batch has gone bad, which is very common in the industry too, you can recall the products too. So I think these are like existing products, protocols and systems in place, which has been around for over 100 years in the aerospace industry, and we can learn much from there and adopt over. So even though manned or unmanned, drones are ultimately going to be mediums to do things. So if we look at it just like a system, then we can evaluate it better, and I think that's where the industry can really flourish.
Thank you, Shreya. Bringing out very good points of having the certification agencies, like most of our processes IDEX make, they allow us to have the SEMILAC and DGCA reps being a part of the FST teams, and therefore as the product, the development is taking place, they are continuously a part of that development process, and therefore the certification, the services are ensuring that it becomes easier for them. Also, another point which I thought maybe, what I understood of that point was that, are there enough aviation universities who are getting the understanding of the defense ecosystem or teaching aviation to people who will now thereafter go into this defense manufacturing or the industry? You are dependent on people like me coming to a panel or some people in the audience and really don't know the experts. So I won't call myself expert. I'm a fighter pilot sitting here and presiding an unmanned seminar as a moderator. So that's what the reality is. So you have to have people who are the experts like Naran sir talk about it and give the right perspective. And third is a transparent network of suppliers. Maybe like we rate on the Amazon that this supplier is 5 rated or 3.5 rated. That way, if the rating goes to suppliers, you would quickly go and pick up a 5 rated supplier depending upon what you want for, what the use case is for. Is it for a trial? Just for a trial, I'll use a 2 rated just for my trial. Prove the concept and then going for the, when I go for development, take a 5 rated. So good points. Going on to, we have another eminent panelist among us, Mr. Natarajan Ramachandran, who is the GM SIDBI, and therefore here we go on to the focus of finance. Many SMEs, MSMEs and startups possess innovative ideas, but struggle during the valley of death, sir, between the prototype and production. And how can the banking institutions or the financial institutions help in that case? And can defense manufacturing receive financial models different from conventional commercial lending?
Very happy evening to everybody here. Thanks for the question, sir, and I thank PhD also for giving us an opportunity to be part of this extremely innovative, and like when everyone is talking about defense and technologies, so maybe I find a little bit of an odd man out, talking about finance. So far as SIDBI is concerned, we are mandated only to do MSMEs, unlike any other bank. So that we do, we have been doing for the last 36 years since our inception. So when we are talking about innovation, startups, and all that stuff, so it is my duty to highlight that fund of fund for startups is one of the key things that CP has been managing on behalf of Government of India, DPIIT. So it's like 10,000 crore initially, and the subsequent 10,000 crore. We have already deployed 12,000 odd crores in through 165 alternative investment funds. So one thing I would say is many of these alternative investment funds, they do invest in defense deep tech startups too. But I believe there are no totally segmented, totally focused, AIF, which completely invest only in defense technologies. So maybe that is one need of the hour, that we are also looking at how we can encourage such kind of AIFs to come and invest only in deep tech. Focused investment in defense tech. Another aspect I would like to say is right now that we are like IDEX winner startups, that SIDBI has been associated in some way, like through the incubators we do seed funding up to 1 year. This is already happening, and quite a number of startups we have already done, and this will continue to increase as we look into more and more improvements in the defense sector. One more thing from a conventional perspective, maybe like I would also say from a perspective of like digital financing per se. So we do operate one scheme called cash defense that we have introduced almost a year ago. Here what we do is we look at an umbrella limit of 20 crore to MSMEs for financing specific purchase order from any of the defense sector, and also from public sector entities like Hindustan Aeronautics, etc. So this is one scheme which is gradually gaining traction. Maybe I would look at all the stakeholders to refer to SIDBI where this cash defense scheme is improving. So this is one thing I feel we can continue to support the defense sector. And as I said, defense focused startups is one need of the hour that we don't have. While we have done 160, 165 AFs, this is additional, but it is not a totally focused startup. That we would look at how we can encourage in the years, in the months to come. Thanks.
Turn over to youngster who's here in the panel, Ishan Hidden, who's the founder of Easy. Innovation and a startup ecosystem perspective will be given by him on supply chain, IP rights, TOTs. Startup excel at innovation, but often struggle with continuing to end the defense production procurement with services. What changes would you make, or do you advise to make the ecosystem more startup friendly? Some advice from you.
Thank you, sir, for such a wonderful question. Although most of the members before have covered a variety of things I was thinking to speak about, and coming to your question, I think I'm the only one right now sitting here who has experience with both consumer and enterprise.
I would request the audience to kind of focus over here. There are some youngsters over there talking on themselves. It's a very important chance that you're getting to, mostly you'll find not many people listen to startups. There's a startup guy who's going to give you a perspective. There'll be very pointers that he'll give you.
Right. So I would be the only person right now sitting here having experience with both, dealing with both sides of the industry, be it consumer and enterprise, having experience of assembling thousands of drones in a month, to now focusing on the enterprise segment where when we were working in consumer, the main focus was speed, efficiency and cost. Here on the top of it, now it is indigenization, sovereignty and security. Right? And
may I request that last crowd over there, if there's something very compelling, then you can go outside and have a talk. The last two rows over there, the Sikh gentleman who's there sitting over there, and some girls there. If it is very compelling, just please go out and have a chat and come back.
Right. So now coming to the enterprise, where security, sovereignty, and safety is one of the biggest factors that we now focus on. And the biggest challenges that we face in terms of now capitalizing it to a validated product, I would feel is considering the demand is ever changing and innovation is I would say, a non-stop journey. For me, what I personally feel, innovation without manufacturing has no meaning. And for that, rapid prototyping is a mandatory thing, where we need to make sure that rapidly prototyping is happening. And we use CNCs, 3D printing machines to make sure that once the products are going in the field, we are getting the feedbacks and we are rapidly changing our product, adapting to the real life requirements of each of the field, depending on what kind of terrains or what kind of requirements are there. So I would feel rapid prototyping plays a very important role, and at the second level, considering after your product is validated, it would be the mass scale production, because until the product becomes standardized, validated, you can't do mass production. So there has to be some gear changing in terms of when you rapidly iterate and create more prototypes, and when you switch to mass prototyping. So I think that is one of the biggest challenges a company like ours and startups in this ecosystem would face. And considering now in terms of working with a lot of global partners, having a lot of experience in TOTs, transfer of technologies, where we are partnering with the leading champions in various domains. And I personally advocate TOTs. I don't feel that's something I feel that, considering indigenization is the main goal, TOTs should be discouraged because, of course, localization cannot happen overnight. This is a journey that the entire ecosystem needs to work with. And when I say ecosystem, I feel all component players, vendor players, they need to work together to make sure the industry is rising up. And that's why ecosystem is the strongest requirement here, working together, partnering with each other, and helping each other out in terms of final outputs. So TOTs are a great way in terms of learning, I would say, what people have been doing since 30 years, 40 years in the past, because they started before than us in a lot of domains. But at the same time, intellectual property is something that needs to be focused. Right? The source code needs to be ours. And in terms of security, the backdoors need to be also made sure that they are safe and in our hands. So in short, I would feel, yes, partnering is a very important part of how you scale up, but having your own source codes, having your own IPs and your own, I would say, your own, I would say, originality is something very important for companies in this domain. And yes, that's what I feel. I mean, is the challenges that need to overcome and the layerings that need to be synced together to make sure that the final outcome of the goal is intact.
I want to comment on that, sir.
Ishan, sorry, Chair, I think it's a very serious issue when we are talking of Bharat stack or Bharat drones. Yes, TOTs can only be meaningful if we are progressing in a systematic manner. Otherwise, TOTs can be regressive. Unless we understand this distinction, India will never become what we are achieving. Atmanirbharta or Viksit Bharat, we can forget. We have been doing this process. When we make progress in the indigenous project, immediately TOT is offered, and it is offered in a manner. So I'll give you, where you design from TRL 1 to TRL 5, you never get TRL 1 to 5, you get from TRL 7 to 9. How will you get the knowledge of TRL 1 to 5? So unless we understand the nuances, while sometimes TRLPs can help, let's say I don't know the particular part of TRL 7 to 9, yes, it will help. You know, it's a very complex technology, we have never done it, and we have always reached the TRL 7 and struggled. So that TOT can be in terms of machines, that TOT in terms of processes can be in specific. But it should complement your indigenous capability and should not, take away the TRL 1 to 5. So that part is very, very important. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And while I was speaking to another panelist offline, this was one of the points that he kind of brought out very clearly. So, Mr. Devalya from Hyprix Aviation, aviation manufacturing and industrial capability, these are the two aspects which I'd like to comment on. And, what investments are required to bring global competitive aerospace manufacturing in India? And any other point that you want to make?
Absolutely, Commodore. Thank you for the question, but I apologize in advance. I have a very contrarian view to the entire panel over here, and I hope you don't judge me for it. I really do not think that we as a country should be doing defense manufacturing at all. We should not be indigenizing and focusing on it, because as Indians, whenever we speak about defense manufacturing, we think of bespoke solutions with a very high idiot index. It's a term that's coined by Elon Musk, which is the ratio of the cost of the items sold by the cost of the raw materials to make it. And for Indian weapons, it's just insanely high. Today, it's a war of attrition and mass manufacturing. The only way we can live in this is by using commercial supply chains. A Ukrainian soldier once showed me the insides of a Shahid. If you have ever seen the onboard flight computer of a Shahid, it uses C2000s. It's a TI chip that is being sold in thousands. They do not even understand what defense grade components is. It's automotive grade sensors and just off the shelf hardware. If you have seen Firepoint Systems, it's one of the biggest companies in Ukraine right now. They are using off the shelf software. And I think the only way that anything can bring these commodity goods together and turn them into frontier systems is software. Software to integrate it all, software based on open architecture that makes your supply chains resilient. We are talking about as a country, but look at Tesla, one of the biggest companies on the planet, and even they faced a supply chain issue for chips being in USA. While Ford lost out on 1.5 million units back in 2022, I think, I don't know about the dates. What Tesla did was just choose a new chip, write out the firmware in 2 weeks and start production again. That's only possible when you have built out the hardware around the software as a platform and not hardware itself. And that's exactly what we are trying to do. We are building out these software-defined cruise missiles with commercial supply chains that can be manufactured at hyperscale. And in this era of conflict, if any of the supply chains, any of the vendors stop delivering, we simply swap them out. We literally just move out because the software is ours. We need to own this software. I'm never saying we shouldn't be building out semiconductors. That's not defense manufacturing. That's a critical technology that the country needs to own. But we shouldn't be naming it defense manufacturing. We should be using commercial supply chains because even Ukraine uses Chinese components right now. When we actually get to wars, there is no way that we'll be thinking about, hey, is this Indian or is it not? Our asses will be on fire and we'll need to fight. And I think the only way to do that is with software and commercial supplies. On the side of investments, I think the market has opened up quite significantly. I remember before Sindoor when we were trying to raise, we had a horrible time. But at this point, with Rafe leading the examples, venture capital in this defense industry from global capital has just increased. The interest has increased multifolds. And I think we should capitalize on this fact as well. So yeah, it's about making something that not just India uses, but the entire world can use as a single point. India is right now at that point where we are friendly with every single nation. We can not only sell weapons, but we can share factories. And that's the biggest point. We need to capitalize on this. But yeah, that's it from me.
You incited Shreya. She wants to say something.
Please, yeah.
I like a good rebuttal.
Please.
So I'll break this down in a couple of ways, right?
one of the few things is you've generalized drone into a modern warfare where the swarm drones are easily accessible to a smaller scale. But when we talk drones in defense manufacturing, it's all about the class of work. And then that means that there is everything from nanotechnology all the way to your aircraft designs, right? And that in its subset means by default you have very few supply chains in place already. What that means is your FPV drone, which can be 3D printed today, I think, which is what you're referring to, is easy to take on, or like even do a automotive based sort of supply chain, whatever. But at the end of the day, what we are looking towards is actually a vision where you can have a supply chain that is sovereign, right? Ultimately, your sovereignty is what will allow you to tap into ecosystems that cater to your requirements. And what that means is India has the beautiful concept of widest operating temperature range. What that means is you have the coldest regions, you have the hottest regions, you have humidity thrown in the mix. Nobody in the history of whoever has made aircrafts before has serviced that line of work. We pay, I think I was discussing this earlier, we pay almost 4 times for maintenance. So what you are talking does not suffice for what is happening today. Supply chains, all in all, cater to what can be managed as an alternative, and you're willing to take the hit. War is war, and I respect that. But if I'm trying to win the war, I will want whatever gets me to the target fastest. If you say like sending a whole bunch of swarm drones where they will die out mid-flight, that won't be my way. I will actually send out like, midliners and even large ones, so that there is like a mothership and that sort of concept, which is what everybody's looking at now. But can you say you can make a mothership out of what exists on an automotive supply chain? No. And even Tesla or even any other automotive industry partner, just putting it in context, there are 268 car manufacturers in China. Tesla is one of them. BYD has broken bounds like by miles in Tesla. Tesla is just the hype. So when we hear a lot about the US companies, it's a lot about selling the press kit. If you evaluate in terms of technology, which is what defense is really after, there's a lot of people with good work out there. And secondly, supply chain is about having that geopolitical stability between the respective countries as well. I think in the middle we were not at good terms with Turkey, so we couldn't do certain procurements as well. So being in line with that sort of operations is equally important.
Right, when you mentioned Turkey, Turkey still does business with the US because they keep geopolitics and business aside, is what they say. And good points, Shreya.
Sorry, can't resist myself.
Dave,
Please let me have it.
in the tea outside, you'll have a lot of people talking to you.
Absolutely, guys. I'm down.
Have you done? Are you a software guy?
No, I'm a CFD engineer.
CFD engineer, even worse. Okay, so I'll tell you what. We wanted carbon composite products, and one of the core suppliers quietly reduced the supply of carbon composite. All manufacturers in India found it difficult to manufacture. Okay? Second, what happened in this war between Iran, Israel and US? Once they fired their missiles, they didn't have the components. The scaling up in the West is a challenge today. Why is Europe looking up to India as a partner? If it was just the world was one, they shouldn't have been looking at India.
He's forgotten the goat's backside which flew off and the pagers.
Yeah.
So they were components, commercial off the shelf.
Third, no, not only that. You please look at 16 March 2022 tweet of Prime Minister of Ukraine.
I remember.
So while I understand, and secondly, which is the country which has got maximum population on this planet?
India.
India.
Yeah.
So why can't we create subsystem manufacturing in each state?
We absolutely can.
India should not think like European country. We have to generate jobs for people, and we have to. Only thing we should be discussing it how to make it economically viable, how to make it commercially viable, how to make a scale up to the global level. That should be the discussion, not that thing should not be made in India. In fact, everything can be made in India because of diversity, numbers, technically qualified people, and the people who are migrating abroad. This is how you retain your manpower. Why is he sitting here? Otherwise, he would have been working for a global company. Because today there is an opportunity. Now, if we get those supply chains in India, India will look different, and you will not have to look around. You will immediately call up your friend. Yeah, I want this product. It will be easier. Thank you.
No, absolutely, sir. I also think it's a very honored gentleman talked about the speed of relevance in the morning. We are still building out the Kaveri engine. We can absolutely make every single bit, but we can't produce Inconel in the country. There is no one in the country who weaves carbon fiber. It's still brought in from Italy. The manufacturers that you're talking about, they don't weave carbon fiber, they produce it, which is very different. At the end of the day, it's all resources and minerals, which India by itself does not make everything of. Sure, we make a lot of it, not saying no. But my point isn't to make the country great, it's to win the war. And to win the war, you do what you have to. That's my point. Please.
I'll speak later.
Let's have tea together.
So I'll go to the last panelist, Mr. Vishal Makande, who probably will give a very big focus now. The biggest focus now for all unmanned system and the UAS in particular is artificial intelligence, which is becoming central to aerospace manufacturing. What skills should India engineering workforce develop to support the AI-enabled aerospace manufacturing is a question that maybe he'll be able to answer.
Yes, hi, good evening everyone. I'm Vishal. Is this on? Hi. Good evening everyone. So, well, that's not really something that is my subject, but I'll still try to answer that. If you're talking about how AI can help in manufacturing, well, the robotic systems and 3D printing is the first bit of it. But then, to get there, I guess there are a couple of things that need to be understood. What the panel on my left was actually talking about, or rather sometimes arguing also about. I agree with both points of views, but in general, it's the market, the economics that guides everything. It cannot be an opinion, it cannot be a government, it cannot be a regulation. These are only stumbling blocks that kind of correct themselves over a period of time, because the triage of enterprise, investor, and the user sits under the umbrella of the regulation, which is the government. So, indigenization and supply chain ecosystem, so that's what it all operates under. One of the examples is that, how suddenly the drone companies took off is when the government decided to play the role of a market maker and came up with some policies and grants and allowed these companies to mushroom and test it out in the market and fight it out amongst themselves. Some fell, some stood. Maybe some will survive the test of time, and that's how markets evolve and operate. There is no other way to actually, even indigenization is part of that, because we have enough examples in India. I mean, look at the car ecosystem or the vehicle manufacturing ecosystem. It evolved. I mean, people came from outside the country, they trained, we got our people skilled here, and then eventually, the things followed from there, where probably India today has, after China, one of the largest ancillary automotive industry in the world. The same thing can happen with drones. I mean, I agree with I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, but the point that you made, I agree with that it's an iterative asymmetric warfare that we are looking at, and Operation Sindoor made us taste the first no-contact war, where the soldiers never interfaced with each other. And if that is going to be the future of warfare, which, West Asia conflict, Ukraine conflict, Nagorno-Karabakh, everything was mentioned here. If that is what it is going to be, then, that's what we need to be prepared for. But that's, I think, at the end of the day, the call that, people who will be writing our drone warfare, war-fighting doctrine are going to decide. But from my side, because we are more focused on energetic and kinetic systems, the more important thing is that the ecosystem is not really ready, in my opinion, to even do trials and tests of long-range strategic systems. Because, I was talking to Ramit, Colonel Ramit, where is I? The longest range where we can test a system is just 40 kilometers in Pokhran. Now, if you want something, there have been RFIs I've been reading which ask for 1,000-kilometer drone. Where do you test them? Within your radio line of sight, you can't test anything beyond 100 kilometers. Right? So, but those things, that's not critical because these things tend to solve for themselves. The industry will find a way or the user will figure out some solution. I guess, it'll happen. But the most important thing is that, there needs to be enough interaction between the user and the enterprise to be able to come up with a solution, because the industry does not understand the ConOps and ConEms, and the user, probably has their own limitations in terms of understanding how engineering and technology would actually come together to solve a problem that they have. So that, if there is enough confidence, then that can also be solved. And this is one point I wanted to make about Mr. Natarajan here, because this is something which is happening currently, that you are saying that you are providing or you're doing PO financing. Now, even for companies which are engaged in innovative R&D, because they usually tend to have negative balance sheets where there is no solvency certificate available. Even in that case, because if you capitalize R&D, you will obviously carry a negative balance sheet. Yeah.
So this is where I was mentioning that by capital by way of equity infusion through the venture funds. So from a conventional perspective, it's a bit difficult, but from a cash flow financing perspective, things are changing. In fact, I would say the biggest revolution to happen in our economic ecosystem is the GST revolution, which has brought in tremendous amount of ease in quick delivery of credit. So cash flow financing is one of the biggest thing that has come up from this revolution. So a lot of things are changing. So we would also look at opportunities where companies having negative balance sheets are also financed, particularly in the
That's the biggest problem that we are facing in terms of regulation.
This is where the venture capital is in fact come into play as of now, but we should also, from a conventional perspective, evolve the system. We are gradually transforming to a cash flow financing perspective, but it is still in a kind of a nascent stage, I would say. So it should.
It is the hypocrisy of the system that I'm talking about. Where you're saying MSMEs should be encouraged, but the MSMEs, which are basically the drivers of R&D and innovation, will mostly carry a negative net worth initially, cannot get financing from the banks, where it's the most important point in their life cycle. So the valley of death was also mentioned here. That's one of the causes of creating the valley of death, that you do not have viable financing options for MSMEs.
I agree with you that maybe the government should think of a sovereign fund, so which can be given to MSMEs and startups when they are in that when the graph is going down and they're short of funds. There is an order already placed where his money is already stuck up in that order, the PBGs or the APGs, and he can't now give. He wants to go for the second order. So there are multiple issues. So there needs to be a fund who takes care of that. And banks don't understand defense. They say it's a risky business. I will give you based on your performance. Last contract done. Now I'll give it to you. That's the way it happens. And all of us sitting over here, some from financial institutions, need to understand that if we are in it together as a nation, we at all levels have to be together in it and help things grow and move rather than become bureaucratic and कि now he's come to me, अब ये फंसा, ऐसे नहीं करना. So that's what we do. When I'm sitting on a chair, I exercise the power, and if I'm exercising the power and it becomes problematic for somebody else, I realize, wow, no, it's not that. Power is How did you enable thing? How did you make it easy for the other person to happen? How did he solve a problem? That's what power does. And if you can understand that power, then you really deserve to be on the chair and position. So, interesting discussion. Now, any of the audience who wants to ask any questions to any panelists, I would go on from the rearmost row, the most attentive row. Any questions from the rear? Yeah.
Maybe everyone. You said the star rating is like amazing kind of rating. So generally, as a manufacturer, everyone generally struggle to find the actual manufacturer to source the components, because we do the googling search for everything. Generally, we find the traders having a good website and everything. And is there any web portal, something, some source where we can get authentic list of Indian manufacturers, so we can source Indian products, so we can make sure ourselves that we are giving a good percentage of Indianized product to Government of India, because we have to give a declaration to Government of India that we had sourced these material Indianized. This is 67% or 78% or whatever it is. So, is there any web portal or authentic source?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. I think it is one of the serious challenge we had. I have been asking questions to the Ministry of Defense, Secretary DRDO, or the Director Seminar, or the, we also have a Directorate of Standards. The challenge is currently indigenous products are available, but any website which has people from all entities, they don't take a risk of nominating one entity because they cannot prove that it is designed by India. While everybody in the industry who really deals with it knows it. But for any new entrant or the users trying to find out, they will never find it. The reason being, there is no mandate with any entity in India which can certify that it is indigenous design, including armed forces have not done any such. They don't have any mechanism of certifying that it is designed in India. The definition of indigenous design, developed and manufactured was changed, I think, last year, where they said this will be based on materials, components, and software. But no mechanism has been formulated to really certify that. So it has remained a definition without validation and certification mechanism. Having said that, the few efforts have been made, but I cannot give the name because others have gone in. To give you one simple, one of the template you can use is any entity which has participated in IDEX and has developed some system. There can be some template, but not a reliable one. So I think that's a gap. Star rating is not working. There are few entities who have made a group, but initially it started with the indigenous design, including one of the industry body, but slowly everybody got inside that. So it got mixed up. Just if allow me, it's one separate point which was raised earlier about testing site, which Dr. Ranjana said. He's one of the person who's been impacted, and there are startups here. We have testing laboratories and testing sites in DRDO, DPSUs, Defense Forces, and the academia, the laboratories. But as regards to laboratories that are there, most of them are not NABL certified. So during development, they use those labs. They have all the reports, but they are not recognized for certification. So they have to again spend the money. Second part, testing sites which DRDO has made available, they are not available 24/7. Night testing, you just can't do it unless, there is a very special thing. Secondly, the slots available are very, very limited. The manpower within the DPSUs and DRDO is limited. So I think there is a that time has come that we come in a PPP mode and make it available on a 24/7 basis. That has not happened. Secondly,
before you discourage them, I'll work going on, and I think there will be 4 or 5 testing ranges being made available soon. Some work going on. There is a long range testing facility and has been given to startups, whoever is approached, at least the Air Force, and I understand the Army also done it in a big way. And I can assure you, whenever you approach, you will not be denied, and whatever long range, 1,000, 2,000 you want to do, we will be enabling you. That I can assure you that part.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I think this is how you push policy makers. Thank you very much. But I hope it is available because design and development is an iterative process. When you have a problem, we should not have, and we hope. Thank you very much.
Gentleman behind.
Question to Sidvi. Hi sir. Question to Sidvi. Sir, what is the frequency of page updation of your funds page? And can it display how much fund is actually transferred versus sanctioned?
You are asking about fund for startups?
Yes sir.
Okay, the data that I have is actually not part of the team. In fact, 12,000 and odd crore has already been deployed out of the 10,000 crore initial corpus given to SIDBI and the subsequent 10,000 crore corpus given to SIDBI.
Not just sanctions are delivered, actually transferred into their accounts.
Okay. I'm not offhand with that particular data.
Sir, this is a request that
yeah,
can be displayed onto the website. It will be very much helpful for the startup.
Yeah.
We keep on running from AIFs to AIFs.
Certainly we'll do that.
Second thing, sir, can the number of AIFs be paired to IDEX incubators, AICs, which is Atal Incubation Centers, Atal Community Innovation Centers and EIX, and bound with a fund to a district of Bharat? So can you bound them with a certain amount of fund to all the districts of the country if you want to have the better penetration of innovation? Can that happen, sir?
I think we have to deep dive into that to figure out how it is going to work. Maybe that's a good suggestion. I'll take that point. Maybe if you can just mail it out to me as well.
Sir, if you want further consideration, I also happen to be the regional mentor of change from Atal Innovation Mission. We can definitely discuss.
Yeah, certainly we'll get engaged and
Thanks,
we'll
sir.
see. Yeah, thanks.
Last question.
So this question was initially, first of all, thank you very much for an absolutely wonderful and engaging panel session. Initially, my question was for Mr. Ramchandran, but I think Mr. Markande can also add some value, as can all of you. So if owned in Bharat is supposed to mean intellectual property, sovereign intellectual property, and design authority, rather than just assembly, what patient capital or patient strategic capital architecture is needed to finance indigenous intellectual properties from ideation to induction, especially when a startup or an MSME cannot show assured orders? Anyway.
It's challenging, very challenging. You are asking God. But one thing is there, I am a critique, remember. The wonderful job is being done by the Defence Forces. I am privy to a lot of initiatives taken by them. Meher Baba is an outcome of a lot of hard work by the various entities. IDEX initiatives are there, but there is the issue of some of the issues which are brought out. So remember, today you can just send a mail to your design directorate and they give you an appointment. Today so many senior officers, the way they approach you, it is, they are point of contact available to you, which is not the case in the past. Today testing, anyone who's part of IDEX or any initiatives really gets to, or even Meher Baba competition, they really get an access to those facilities. But I think we need a civil testing side, which is what I was referring to. Because iterative development requires somebody, having a problem tomorrow, again he can go when he doesn't have a appointment. So that's what I'm thinking of. I realized when I wrote my first paper in 2017, US had come up with the 6 national level testing sites, drone testing sites. Japan has a robotics testing sites in Fukushima. So let's understand the military will do to an extent they can do it. But having a military-civil technology fusion, which Colonel Manik mentioned, will only be viable when the testing site is available. That like Amazon, I book it and tomorrow morning I test it. That is little what we are looking at. Thank you.
But we formed a school of US in 34 week Pretender, where there's a range close by. And the intent was that when we do all research and development with the civil and military and the academia over there, was for that purpose. So this is only one of them. There are certain ones in south that are coming up. So over a period of maybe about 6 odd months, you'll find things coming out to fore, and there will be full stations which are like unmanned research and development with for the military on one side and for the civil on the other side, with testing facilities available. That might happen. So that's a work in progress, and it's not that it's not happening. It's got clearances to take, and that is happening. We are also quite alive to it and taking it on.
I don't think you still answered this.
I'll just answer this question.
So, his question was basically, we in the defense have like what the Meher Baba initiative. The startups who won the Meher Baba, the first iteration, have now gone on to have orders worth 2,000 crores with defense services. Why? Because when they worked with us and when we handheld them, guided them, and it's a work in progress together, it will go through and achieve what it has to, because you are with a purpose, I am with a hunger. I want that thing, and that'll drive and get you through if you are ready for it. And that's happened over the last 7 years. Even now, few more of those startups are now growing into big ones. So that's a IDEX was born out of Meher Baba. If people don't know about it, in 2016 and 17, when Meher Baba was conceived and put to the government and was approved, IDEX took birth from there on. And what we can do, thank you for a big round of applause to all the panelists. I ended in the road, not giving some Angrezi, but a very practical example to you. I am from MiG-27, a legacy aircraft which was on the verge of living out its life. Air Force had decided to upgrade these MiG-27s internally. The SDI and the HAL and the squadron getting involved. The unit from Jodhpur was moved to Nasik, where SDI team was there, HAL team was there, and the operators were themselves there. So this operating squadron had people from Mirages, Su-30s, and such like aircraft which were taken from other countries. We made our own HUD better than a Su-30 HUD. We made our own UFCPs, those weapon panels, navigation panels. And in the last 2 years of its life, the MiG-27, which means about to phase out, it won the best fighter squadron. Can you beat it? The जहाज बूढ़ा होकर retire हो रहा है. It beat the Su-30s and the Mirages because you had developed that weapon test on that, done the testing yourself. At Ditchcom, when it marked the cursor on the ground, the bomb went there. Because you had planned to do it. So that's the capability that we have. And that's what innovation, having your own IPR and developing yourself can bring to the table. Thank you so much.
Those who did not understand, HUD is head-up display. So, pilot looks up and he can see exactly what is there on the cockpit. So, he's a fighter pilot, so it's natural for him to talk about HUD.
जोरदार तालियां हो जाए. Thank you so very much.